What's up guys, it's weekly video time. So this week I'm going to be talking about my top bulking tips, seeing as it's now most people's bulking season. Everyone's trying very hard to pack on as much muscle as possible. So let's get into it. Here's tip number one. It might seem like a really obvious one, but it's always good to start at the basics because sometimes people start overthinking things so much they forget the basics. So tip number one is you have to eat more calories than you consume on a daily basis. Simple, right? If your daily expenditure is 2,000 calories, for example, if you want to gain weight, you're going to have to eat more than 2,000 calories. End of. Tip number two. Now that we've established that we need to eat more calories than we burn on a daily basis, we need to move on to how we structure that. I think it's really easy for people to just think, oh, okay, I need to be in a calorie surplus. So they automatically increase their calories by massive amounts straight away and then wonder why they put on loads of fat or stop gaining weight really easily. So tip number two, you have to be structured about how you increase your calories. If you watch my video on reverse dieting, you will know that the best way to lean bulk is to increase your calories slowly. So you do so each week. You take weekly measurements, weekly weight updates, and see how you're getting on. If you've already gained some weight that week, then great. I suggest leave the food as it is, but if you haven't, you may want to just increase your food by about 100 calories to start with, and then do so again the following week if you haven't gained enough weight, and so on and so on. But what you don't want to do is increase your food too quickly, too early, because you will gain loads of unwanted fat, and eventually your body, like everything else you do, will get used to having that amount of food, and then your weight gain will stop, and then it will be incredibly hard for you to try and kickstart that process again. Tip number three, make sure you're eating enough protein with every meal. As everybody knows, protein is king when it comes to building and repairing muscles. A good rule of thumb that I like to use is that I try and have at least 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. Tip number four, even though everybody knows, as I said, that protein is king for muscle building, for growing and getting muscles bigger, we also need a lot of carbs. So prioritize your carbs around your workout times. That's when it's going to get best utilized. So I'm talking pre-workout, make sure you have some carbs. Something that's often forgotten but that I found is a great tool that you can use when trying to build muscle is intra-workout carbs. So I always have my BCAA shake that I sip on during my workout, and when I'm bulking I will always add some quick acting carbs like dextrose in there to help my muscles stay fueled throughout the workout, so we don't use all the carbs that we're putting in throughout the day that are supposed to be going towards repairing our muscles. So essentially what intra-workout carbs are going to be doing is they're going to be flooding your muscles with carbs and making those pumps all that much better. Now that we've covered pre and intra-workout carbs, you also don't want to be neglecting your post-workout carbs. Now that we've torn our muscles off the bone, as Zach Perno would say, throughout our workouts, our muscles are going to be primed to soak up as many carbs as they can to help repair themselves and grow. So make sure you have some carbs after your workout. Now that we've covered protein and carbs, don't neglect your fats and your veg. I see a lot of people that think that because protein and carbs are the two primary players in building and repairing muscles, they often neglect fats and vegetables. But as part of a balanced diet, we need enough fat for our bodies to run in a healthy manner and for our bodies to grow. And same goes for fibrous vegetables. So don't neglect the two. And the other great thing about fats when you're trying to bulk is they have shitloads of calories, as everybody knows. So adding fats into your diet is a really easy way to increase the calories further. Tip number six, and this is one that I used to struggle with quite a lot, because I used to think that because I was on 3,500, 4,000 calories, I was eating more than enough to be able to grow. At the end of the day, if your weight stops going up and you stop making gains in the gym, there's only one solution for it: eat more. It clearly means that you're utilizing everything that you're giving your body and that your body just needs more to grow. It's that simple. So if you stop gaining weight, eat more. No matter how much you think you're already eating, eat more food. And who doesn't love to eat more food? Tip number seven. Now there is one little problem with what I just said about eating more food. not everyone is like me and has a bottomless pit for a stomach and that can eat for fun. I have absolutely no problem eating for bulking. And in fact, I relish every week when I see that I need to add more food into my diet, because I'm just a greedy pig at the end of the day. I'm really a fat boy in a skinny person's body, and I just want to eat 24/7 as much as I can. So I don't have that problem, but I know not everyone is like me. So if you struggle to add more food, if you get to a point where you think you physically can't eat anymore but you still want to gain more weight, blend your calories. Blending your calories is a really easy way to get even more food into your diet without having to force feed yourself, because drinking your calories is a lot easier. So some tips and tricks that you can do to that is make some shakes. Make some protein shakes with some oats, some peanut butter, some ice cream. You can easily whack another 500 to 1,000 calories in a shake doing it that way. Tip number 8, let's move on to training. One of the optimal ways of gaining extra muscle in the off season and making the most of those extra calories you're putting in is to train your body parts twice a week. Now the simplest way to do this, if you don't want to do 2 sessions a day or train every single day during the week, is to do a push-pull leg split. That's what I'm currently doing, so I'll do push-pull legs day off, push-pull legs day off, and then go again. That way you're training each body part twice, so they're getting twice the volume, twice the workout, twice the muscle building. Tip number 9, don't neglect your rest. Essentially what happens when we want our muscles to grow is, in the gym, we tear the shit out of them. We create micro tears. So basically the muscles get longer, they get bigger, and then they repair themselves and maintain that bigger form. So that's all well and good, but they're not going to repair themselves unless you give them a rest. Because if you constantly hit them, constantly go to the gym without resting them, all you're going to be doing is just re-tearing, and overworking your muscles, get injured, and they're just not going to grow. So don't neglect your rest. Tip number 10. This has to be one of my favorites, because I was always one of those people that would always be a lot more committed to my training and my diet when I was cutting, because I thought, well, I'm in a calorie surplus, so I can kind of be a bit lax with my food, a bit lax with my training, because I know I'm going to gain weight and I know I'm going to grow, so I don't need to be as regimented as I am during a cut. Because in a cut, obviously, if you don't hit your calorie goals, you go over them, you're not going to lose fat. If you don't do your cardio, you're not going to lose fat. If you don't go to the gym, you're not going to lose fat. So you've got a lot more of an incentive, I found anyways, to stay on top of your cutting phase and be a little bit more lax with the gaining phase. But I've come to realize quite quickly that summer bodies are made in the winter, and you have to commit to your gaining phase just as much, if not more, than you would on a cut. You have to be even more regimented with getting all your meals in, regimented with going and hitting those sessions. Don't skip sessions. And that's how you will make the most of your off season and you will grow. Because at the end of the day, during the off season is when you're going to pack on some muscle, and if you don't gain muscle, you're going to have nothing to reveal when you cut. Tip number 11, now we're getting to some of my favorite parts of the bulking phase. Embrace the fluff. I know it's hard, I know it's an absolute mindfuck, and I used to struggle with it massively, but you are going to gain fat during the off season. It's just an inevitable result of being in a calorie surplus. You're giving your body more food than it needs, so it's going to store some of it as fat. It's inevitable, so the only thing you can do, instead of crying about it, feeling sorry for yourself because you think you're getting fat, embrace it, own it, and enjoy looking absolutely massive in your winter clothes. Tip number 12, another one of my favorites. Even though I said you need to be committed to your off season, I think tip number 12 is also a really important part of the off season, because obviously when you cut, you have to be extremely regimented with your diet, because you have a ceiling for the amount of calories and food that you could be having in order to be in a deficit and to lose fat. But when we're in an off season, we don't have that problem. Yes, in an ideal world, we want to minimize the fat gains and stick to making lean gains. But I think it's great for our minds and our health and our mental health that we relax a little bit during the off season, go for more meals out, enjoy more social events, have a drink, generally indulge in things that you wouldn't allow yourself to indulge in when you're cutting. I think it's really healthy for us to have a break from being so strict with ourselves. So go out and enjoy it, make the most of those extra calories, have a pig out every so often. Tip number 13, and this is going to be the last tip for this video, and I've saved probably the most counterintuitive tip for last, but the last tip is to stay on top of your cardio. I know there'll be a lot of hard gainers out there that look at me and go, what? You have no idea what you're talking about. Trust me, I do. I'm probably the hardest of the hard gainers out there, or at least I think I am. Every hard gainer probably thinks that. But stay on top of your cardio. No, it won't restrict your gains. If anything, it's going to help you gain weight. And let me tell you why. Essentially, keeping your cardio ticking over is going to help with our cardiovascular health. Maintaining our cardiovascular health is going to mean that our heart is going to be better equipped to pump more blood to the muscles more quickly and more efficiently when they need it during strenuous exercise, which means we're going to be able to work out for longer, get an extra few reps without getting out of breath, which all equals to more gains. So I'm not talking about doing masses of cardio during your off season, because obviously no one wants to do that, and that will be counterproductive. But stick to maybe 2 or 3 20 minutes to 25 minute sessions of cardio. That's all I'm advising to do. You don't need to do mountains of cardio. Just do enough to keep it ticking over and keep your general fitness levels up. There's nothing worse than feeling like a fat sloth gets out of breath walking up the stairs during the off season. So that about wraps it up for my tips for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find it useful, and there are a few gems in there that you guys didn't appreciate before, or that you can now implement into your routines that will help you make all them gains. So you know what to do. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already and you don't want to miss the next videos, guys. Hope you found it helpful, and as always, please do leave me a comment, send me a message with your requests for topics and suggestions for next week's video, and I'll be more than happy to cater for those. Peace!